Welcome everyone to Tavern Talk Tuesday. It's our second episode today, and I'm joined by Lindsay. Say hello, Dal.
Hey everybody.
And by Alexa. Hope
Hello.
you had a good vacation, dude. And Kodiak.
Good afternoon.
So today's topics are VR and Pantheon latest news, forum hot topic Progeny tweak, the latest screenshots, interview that Lindsay and I did with Brainbean, and the VoT news. So, Dan, do you want to go and start it off with the VR news?
Sure, we can go ahead and kick this thing off. Ladies and gentlemen out there in Twitch land, today's news from VR, Twitter, Facebook pages. Pantheon tweeted out today, shots fired. They finally surpassed Aerodune in Twitter followers. Eat our dust, boss. Brad McQuaid, he responds back, bah, okay, back to the drawing board. What secrets can I reveal in order to get more people to follow me? So the current number of Pantheon followers right now is 30,000 or 3,065 and to 3,060. So he's got 5 more that he needs to get to be equal with Pantheon currently. So go out there and follow Brad, guys. Throw it up there for him.
Awesome. So another tweets that they put out there, and there's actually a forum post on this, is if you aggro a mob and run into a city, should the guards react and help you, or is it your problem to deal with? So there's been quite a few responses to that, so I'll go through them and then we'll even throw in our thoughts as well. So Robert on Twitter says guards should help. Another proud Pantheon says if the guards can see you coming and dependent on the size, demeanor of the mob, maybe they'll close the gates on you, he. Thomas Bell, if your faction rating is good, the guards should grab aggro. Froome Frondel, that should depend on your standing in the city. Darren says, hope so, or else Kilson will train the people waiting in line at the bank. That's pretty funny. Another proud Pantheon comes back with definitely, though they should protect their citizens, maybe not necessarily you, but at least the citizens. Sinead says, depends on faction, and EQ was fun to work on it. Raz comes in and says, guards should help you and then make you pay for their help. If you don't pay, then they smack you around and throw you in the stocks. Nick Shevenko says they should always help, but depending on your faction, you may end up dead at their hand or a few coin light in your purse. Fond Guy says, depends on your faction with the city. Krugen says, guards should help, otherwise what's the point of guards? Mark Siegel says, if it wasn't for those guards outside Freeport saving my newbie hide, my love for MMOs may never have blossomed. Andrew comes there and says, they only protect if your rep is high with them, how about that? Streak says, guards can't allow fighting inside their city. They will kill those mobs and you. Hottie says, they should help you. They can't have mobs running at amok in your city. The player shouldn't get any XP from the kills, of course. And Yanila, but that's not me, it's spelled differently, says, depends on the bent of the city. Lawful, guards help. Corrupted, maybe not. Also a good idea. Wolfpack KC comes back last and says, in my opinion, guards should protect the city and its people, but if they kill you, it should not get any reward, XP, gold, loot, etc. So what's your guys' take on if you end up running to the city gates and you bring mobs with you, should the guards help you? Should it be dependent on your faction? What's your take, guys?
Well, I think that especially in a newbie city, when you create your character, those guards, because you're 100% faction with your own race's starting city, that those guards should help you without fail. But if I'm traveling around throughout the world and I come across this other city that maybe I'm not good aligned with or whatever, no. But I think in the newbie cities, of course.
Yeah. Down?
Yeah. Cool. I have to say, I like to have the guards, kind of like EverQuest. I mean, you could run to them in your newbie city to help you out, but if you were, your faction was terrible or it was bad or you had a bad reputation and you went to another city, the guards would kill you on site as well. So KOS, definitely kill on site.
Cool. Alex, anything to add?
I definitely think it should be a faction based because let's face it, if a friend of yours is in trouble, you're going to help them. Guards should be no different. So being a starter city, your guards should absolutely help you because it's their job.
Okay.
If you go and you're training to an enemy city, then they might help you, but they're going to kill you first.
Well, it's like if you're a bad faction and you go into a different city, they're going to kill the mobs to keep the mobs from running amok also, but then they're also going to kill you as well because of your bad faction.
Right.
Yeah.
And to have guards actually interact with NPCs and mobs and such like that, even just a simple, a baddie is in range, let's kill it, that does add to immersion because it's a guard doing the job of a guard.
Cool.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. And Ox says, if they don't help us, then nuke the city. So, yeah, I have to agree with that, too.
Okay.
I would, too.
All right, so we'll move on now. That's it's short news this week. So we'll move on now to the hot topic. And this one is the Progeny tweak. It's actually... It's a really interesting topic because the Progeny system, as we all know, isn't set in stone or anything like that, and they're still working on it. And somebody started a pretty decent discussion. Feisty, I think his or her name is. I'll go and read the OP's original post because I think it does interest us all, and everybody has different thoughts and views on how the Progeny system should work or what it should intend to be and everything. So he starts with, I've been pretty consistent with my opinion of the Progeny system. I really just can't see myself deleting a character that I've dedicated hundreds of hours to just get to a minor incremental stat update on an alt. However, while rereading Brad's Reddit AMA today, a thought occurred to me that would make this a possibly compelling mechanic. What if the offspring that you sacrificed our main in order to achieve were a new unlocked class specialization? I'm not speculating on any VR intentions at all here, so just take this as a means to illustrate a notion only, but what if having reached max level on a summoner and having achieved a measurable level of power and or reputation, it were possible for your child to expand on that knowledge and skill to unlock the secrets of necromancy. That offspring then can begin at level 1 his or her journey to master the necromantic arts, and the player can then play the game as the necromancer class. I know I'm not alone at all in the camp that really doesn't want to sacrifice a character we've heavily invested in, but the crowd does a system like this make the idea more palatable or worse? So it's a really interesting discussion, and Brad actually chimed in fairly earlier on into the topic and gave his thoughts from a theorycraft view, not necessarily representing VR's visions or anything like that. So I'll go through that and then we'll see what you guys have to say as well. So this is Brad's response to get the topic going and get the discussion more into depth. I think the retirement part is the hardest part of this system to wrap one's head around and to accept. In fact, having to permanently retire a high-level character in order to create alts with progeny bonuses may be asking too much. While we're not putting a lot of time into the progeny system right now, it's something that is planned several months down the road after we actually have high-level characters, have experienced high-level combat, etc. If there's anything that pokes a sizable hole in the system, it's the retirement part and what that truly means or might mean. We have to first go back to the purpose for such a system. One of its primary goals is to reward a player who has leveled up a character to max level by encouraging him to create alts and experience the game again, albeit from a different perspective and ideally in such a way that feels different and new enough that it's a lot of fun. It's about replayability, it's also about pride. You could adventure with your augmented alts and people would recognize that you were someone who has already achieved great things in Pantheon. And I think that these are great goals. Recognizing and rewarding long-time players while also giving them reason to keep playing can't be a bad thing. But then how does it actually work? Well, first, we haven't said much, again because this system is not even close to being set in stone. And as mentioned, one that doesn't have to be fully fleshed out in the near term. So I'm going to speculate and theorycraft a bit. Yes, that means I'm not announcing anything officially. First, does such a system really require that the older character be permanently retired? I remember my earlier characters and how proud I was of them. I didn't log them in very often because I was more interested in leveling up my newer characters, but I did log them in occasionally to show them off and perhaps even participate in some adventure. if I couldn't do this because my character was inaccessible, how would that make me feel? Probably not so good. But if the higher level player isn't retired, is it fair to allow that person to create alts with some added benefits? I honestly don't see where it's not. If you do, please speak up. For the sake of this discussion, I'm willing to remove the retirement part and think about it for a while. Is there something I'm missing? So it carries on, basically. So go read through that yourself, guys. It's a very interesting topic. What's your take on it, guys? How do you feel about the Progeny system? Is it something that still is on the fence with you guys? Do you see it also the same way that most of us do, you know, after reaching that max level and having to go and sacrifice your main to actually go and benefit an alt? Is that something you could live with, or is it...
I'm all for it, like I said, but the reward has to be worth the sacrifice. So, you know, a +5 cold endurance from going from a dwarf to another thing is not going to be worth it, you know.
Okay. Well, my personal opinion on the Progeny system is this. I can see where, okay, you level a high level character, you beat other players in the game. Okay, and of course you're going to have your griefers and your whiners, the people out there, and be like, well, they spend 80 hours a day, you know, and they beat me to it, and that's not fair. Well, actually, it is fair because they had time to play. I mean, you know, everybody's got a different lifestyle and time constraints. So you're going to have to deal with that side of the avenue. Me personally, I think shut up, go away, you know, get in the back of the line. That's not very important because, you know, people have different times. I like the idea of it where you could, I wouldn't necessarily want to retire my high-level character. I want to keep my high-level character. But getting my high-level character, maybe my new progeny, my new kid that I put on the block, gets either maybe a crafting skill or a crafting bonus, perhaps, or something passed down from my high-level character, but not super overwhelmingly where it makes it so powerful that now it's unbalanced and it doesn't play right with the rest of the other characters out there in the game. So it'd have to be something kind of neat, unique. So I would say maybe they could get a crafting skill, something like that, or something not so big and very, very important. Otherwise, like I said, you don't want to upset the balance. So it's an interesting concept. Some people say it's going to sound gimmicky. But, I mean, if you're going to create an alt, here's an opportunity to create an alt with maybe a little extra added bonus in crafting, you know, something that.
Can we view this from the perspective of Brad's initial thoughts of saying, because it's all about the fact of having you as a player want to go back and relive the low-level areas. So basically, they're looking for ways to keep people interested in the lower level regions, etc., and have to go through it. So what other choices could you guys see for VR to put in there instead of having your character completely retired? Is there anything that you guys could think of?
Well, the big thing I think of is perception system. You put high level perception stuff back in the low end areas where, you know, a level 1, you know, character or a level 10 or even a race of characters comes into a zone they've never been into. Say they didn't play through that zone, you know, in their small newbie city. You can come back through that zone. By passing through that zone, you have a potential of spawning a perception trigger that will take you to a high level area or something like that, or it'll be a quest that's specifically designed for high level characters within that old zone. So there's ways you can revisit these zones with a perception system, I think. I think that's an awesome way to get high-level players to come back through.
Not only that, or a mentoring system of some sort, too. So that way you have the high-level people going back and helping out the newbies.
Yeah, I could see that as long as it doesn't overpower where it starts power leveling the other characters.
No, I think that it should only be if the newbie zone, let's say, because they're going to let the levels 1 through 10 play for free, and then after 10 you have to pay for it. If they allowed that only to happen during those 10 levels, you know what I'm saying? Then I would be okay with me.
What about the option of actually, instead of, let's say for instance now you do go and retire your character, and they bring out a expansion or they bring out an update or whatnot, and you know there's stuff that you could theoretically do with your high level character as well. What about adding a quest where you could like unretire him? Is that something that you could see be a possibility as well?
What I would like to be able to, if I retired, let's say I retired Kodiak as a shaman and he was a blacksmith, right, a master level blacksmith, okay, and I would like to be able to put him in my outpost, right? That way I could always go to my outpost and repair my own gear because I put all that time into that blacksmith, right? Now I'm playing Kodiak number 2 and he's a warrior. You know what I'm saying? I can always go back to my father, who was the shaman, and maybe he can give me a buff or repair my armor or something like that. Like, I can still use, I can't play him, but I can still use his knowledge and his expertise and his trade skill crafting and stuff like that. I think that would be kind of a cool concept.
Lex, what are your thoughts, dude? You got anything you could see?
Well, the Progeny system to me has always been something that I thought was a novel idea, great in concept, but going to be very hard to pull off. No one likes putting in 250 or more hours into anything and then instantly just going, you lose it. You know,
That's
nobody
the hard
likes
part right
that.
there.
It's don't just don't do it, because for me, I'm all about my reputation and my presence online. So my name will always be my name. If that means I don't use the Progeny system ever, so be it. Because that's what it will do, because I will keep my name. Now, what you can do, because I'm also the having many alts category kind of player, you can just retire him, meaning you just don't use him very much. And you can do something that while he's retired, maybe your alt gets an experience boost, you know, something along that lines. But you also get to do other things because it's the child of. Maybe you get a different ability or something like that. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do. And that way, if I want to go back to my primary, you know, Lex or the Dire Lord, I can. And because maybe I still want to raid with him, but I just don't want to group with him anymore. Because it's content I've done 500 times. Now, for going back, they've already stated before in the Black Dagger Keep video that they intend to have a very wide range of levels for every area. So you're still going to see, possibly in the newbie area, high-level people doing stuff. Maybe it's just in the mountains off in the distance in the same area, in a cave or something. But they still got to run back to town, running through all those lower-level zones, so you get the whole experience of the newbie going, oh my God, what was that? You know, who was that? Look at that. Oh my God. You know, which helps keep the game fresh for a lot of new players. But they really, 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 really have to not take away from players with the system. You can, like, make it like Light Switch. He's retired or unretired. When he's unretired, I can play him, but I don't get my bonuses. When he's retired, I can't log in on him, but my alt that is actually a direct descendant gets some kind of bonus or some fancy something.
Yeah, you pay a fee or something.
That way I don't feel like you're taking from me, but you're letting me gain stuff with my own decision.
Yeah. So it's definitely a touchy topic.
Another thing to add on that too, I'd say, like Kodiak just kind of mentioned too, a fee. I could see this if you're the retire, so your high level character, okay, you still can play him, but you're going to pay a either platinum or gold fee that's going to be a money sink, which, you know, they're always looking for ways to get rid of money in the economy. So you do retire him to get that awesome high level, you know, buff to your next character or whatever it is, or your trade skill that goes over to your progeny. Now you got your alt, but however, if you decide to bring your main back out of retirement, you're going to pay maybe 20, 30, 40,000 K.
Yeah, what if you reverse that?
It's just like putting an animal in a stable, right? You're putting your guy in retirement. You got to pay for food, you got to pay for housing, you got to pay for all these things for this old fucker, you know? So it's going to cost you money to have him retired.
Yeah, maybe he needs to have housing.
But in return,
housing has to be paid for.
But in return, you get some type of a bonus, and then when you unretire him, you lose that bonus, but you don't have to pay those fees anymore either.
Yep, as you can see, guys, it's very interesting.
Obamacare.
Obamacare.
Sadly, this is a system that I feel they really have to sit down and look over it multiple times, because if they do something that is on the wide spectrum of unacceptable, it's really going to hurt the game. And that's what I'm scared of.
But see, here's the thing. I wouldn't say I'm scared if they gave you the option to, say you do retirement, they give you that big nice warning message that clearly explains, hey, look, you put Joe Blow Schmuckatelli into retirement to achieve something awesome from Joe Blow Schmuckatelli to your alt. If you decide to take him out of the retirement home, bam, you're gonna get slapped with 100,000, 100K, platinum sync, bam, right there. So it's fair. It's a fair system, because if you do that, because you're turning in a main for an awesome power to put to an alt, the risk reward. It's called the risk reward system. So you're taking a big risk using that to put on a different alt. Now, to be able to bring your main back out, you're going to pay a big high penalty for it later on.
As long as the high penalty is balanced, because, like, for my instance, let's say I participate in raids twice a week, right? But I don't group with my main anymore. I just raid because that's where I have fun with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that means
you don't have to retire him, though.
Huge fee.
But you don't have to retire him, though. You have the choice to retire him.
I don't, but I probably would want to have the option. So that means he's either going to sit, and I'm going to be left out of the system because I can't afford it, or I'm just going to say don't even use it.
Well, I'm going to bring
because I need it for buying my potions for raiding.
I'm going to bring in another post. That's actually another interesting view on it from Eraden, and give you guys his input on it as well. So he says there are 3 ways that come to mind when I think of retirement that would leave the character to still be accessible and useful and not have to be deleted. They could be standalone or combined in any way. Retired vet rolls back into action when disaster strikes. I could think of being retired as having a gradual but noticeable and to a certain extent reversible degradation of skills and abilities, much like when an athlete, let's say Michael Phelps, retires, his swimming ability will not instantaneously degrade to that of a 5-year-old. But as he is retired and not training for hours a day, his ability will degrade over time, but that amount will depend on how often he swims amateur and could be brought back to a high level if he really wanted to, but probably never look back to Olympic status. How much a retired character degrades could work in a similar manner. That's just some of this option. Then he says retired vet becomes a trainer. I actually just thought of this one as I was rereading the first section. If mentoring is to be introduced into Pantheon, this could be a way to approach it. Retired characters are reduced in effectiveness and can be able to take on the role of a trainer to new adventures. And then he has retired characters can contribute in other ways. Another thought I had is that maybe a retired character could still stick around and be accessible and useful, but in a non-combat role. So these are just some of the thoughts that somebody's brought in there to
that's
spice
what I
up.
think. Yeah, like I said, even though if you had a master level crafter or something and you retired him, you should be able to go back to him. He's still there. Just because you retire doesn't mean you're dead. Right?
Exactly.
So you could still repair a sword or an armor or some leather bindings or something of that nature, but you're not going to go out and fight anymore, but we can still access them for their knowledge, for learning a new spell or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the retirement system this way. You retire the character, you give the option, they get a big screen that says warning. Hey, crazy, before you start griefing and complaining in the forums and getting all butthurt, when you do this, you're putting your character in retirement. And here are the penalties that you receive when you put your character into retirement. So do you choose to do that? Otherwise,
and here are the
not,
benefits
continue.
Also. So penalties and benefits.
Here, continue on, play your character, or hey, you want to do this and you want to pay the fee or whatever the penalties are going to come with it. Then there is no whining, bitching, moaning, complaining, because you've been warned before you put your character into retirement and you choose to accept to do that. So people need to people need to understand that when they create the system, you have to play by the rules. And you can't bend the rules to what you want. And if the developers create the set of rules for it and it works and it's balanced, don't complain.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, somebody said something about a druid, right? So if you had a high-level druid that you retired, it doesn't mean that old man druid couldn't translocate you somewhere, right?
Exactly.
You could go to him and say, send me wherever you want.
You just got to pay the penalty.
He's just not going to come with you, you know?
Yeah, so anybody out there...
The only time I can see this becoming a huge issue is like with my example where my main, when he gets a high enough level and he's been max level for 3 months, and I don't want to play him, I want to play an alt. What if the guild or whoever that I'm currently raiding with all of a sudden wants me to raid with him? It's like, so now that's going to cost me money because of that. It's like, because I'm not going to say no.
Well, here's the thing. This is how I look at it. You know the choice. You save up to do it, so you'll have money in the bank necessary. So if you decide, oh crap, you know what, I need to unretire this dude, or your guild bank says, the guild says, well, you know what, we really need you, so the guild's going to go ahead up and ante $50K to help you out and pull your dude out of retirement.
Mm.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's how it can work. I mean, it's cut and dry. It's your choice.
If it was like 5 gold, then it wouldn't matter. But it has to be a hefty price to make you double think that choice. You know,
Ox. Yeah. So I mean, it all comes down to player choice, and that's what I like about it, is because if you got choose your own adventure books, you make a choice in the book, and all of a sudden you screw up, you have to go back and redo your choice to continue the story on. So it's the same concept. You got to play by the rules, and I don't see it being a problem. I see it being a problem with griefy people who don't make good choices, and they get all angry and butthurt. It's like, well, now you got to save up the money to pull your dude out of retirement.
Well, the other thing is, how many times? Maybe you should only have a max of 3 generations. You know.
Yeah, before you poof him. He's actually gone. Like he's passed. He's kicked the bucket. He's wiped.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be penalty. I mean, everybody's always, there's got to be give or take in a game. You have to have some challenge, give and take scenarios to make it work, to keep the system balanced. And I could see it working that way. And you can continue to play your high level all you want. But if you decide to make an alt and you want to retire, you can still make an alt. You don't have to retire your main. But if you choose to retire your main to get that special incentive for your alt, that's where you make a choice. That's where the give and take comes in.
And also, I know that they've said this also, they want to make sure that even if you do play a rogue and you're never going to retire them, you're never whatever, but once you start adding AAs to be just as good as anybody that uses the Progeny system and gets that extra ability or extra thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, they don't want to be like, oh, you have to retire 3 times to get this powerful, and then it makes these other classes obsolete. So that's not what they're trying to do.
And as you can see, it's definitely a very heated, open discussion going on there in the forums. If you guys have any thoughts out there on how they could maybe get away from the retirement process, approach this differently, because it is very important to VR that obviously they want people to go and relive their adventures. And like Dow's already said, the perception system, for instance, is a good way to have people always want to go back to those lower level areas, and maybe even the option with having quests give you options, and depending on the option you've taken, you take option A, that quest will lead you down path A, but later on you might create an alt or go and revisit that quest giver again and take option B because you want to see where it's going to lead you down this time. So if you have any kind of thoughts and ways that they could handle the Progeny system, post it in the forums, guys. Put it out there.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. I mean, ultimately, I think people are getting wrapped around the axle that you retire your character, it's gone for good. No, I don't think so. I think that would be the most terrible idea that VR could do. And even Brad says here, he doesn't want to do that. And in fact, having to permanently retire a high-level character in order to create its progeny bonus may be asking way too much, which it is, because a lot of people don't want to waste that character they spent 300, 400, 500 hours. I wouldn't want to. I'll tell you right now, straight up.
Well,
I wouldn't want to sacrifice that time.
If they did come out with an expansion, let's say that bumped it from 50 to 60, I'm going to want to go back on because to keep that guy high level,
Exactly.
unretire him, get him back to max level, just, for that period, so I have a max level character.
That's why I'm suggesting a penalty system where if you do retire the character to grab a special skill or an ability, that you have to pay a fee to pull him back out of the retirement. Because you have to retire him to create your new ult with that special bonus. You have to. But if you don't want an ult with a special bonus, you don't have to retire him. You can just have him sit there and log him in anytime you want. But if you choose to do so, that's when you pay your penalty. Because whatever it is. Because
you're getting a bonus. You're not.
Yeah, because you're getting a bonus.
It could be how long is he in retirement? Because like I said, if you had an elderly person in a retirement home and he's there for 3 months versus he's there for 2 years, the bill's going to be a lot more expensive after 2 years than it is after 3 months.
It could be a monthly keep. Keep him in the retirement home for 5 months. That's $5K. $1,000K a month.
Yeah.
And that's easy in an MMO to accumulate, but like I said, they're always looking for ways to sink money and get it out of the economy in the game. This is one way to do that too, is that you have to pay a fine to pull your dude out of retirement or pay his retirement home dues.
That's why I suggested the
retirement home.
That's why I suggested also, if you want to have him out of retirement, it's going to have to cost you. So you go on a quest. It's not an easy quest. It's a long quest. So you know that you want to get this guy out of retirement. You're going to have to fight for it. So you have to go on a quest to actually get this guy out of retirement. On top of it, so you could even add that to you pay a fee to actually go and use the benefits on an ult, and then if you want to unretire him, you have to go on a quest as well to get this guy.
Yeah, like a Fountain of Youth quest or something like that.
Yeah, a youth quest or something. Yeah, I mean something you have to pay a fee, a penalty. That's the thing people need to wrap their heads around. You can't just, Progeny system, yeah, cool, I get these cool bonuses to make an ult awesome, and I don't take a hit. And I'm blowing past other people because I got a special bonus here. No, they don't work that way. You got to keep people within a balance in the game.
Well, like I said, and as long as he's in it, like I said, if you use the the outpost as like a housing system, right? As long as your retired characters stay in that housing system, you're paying a penalty fee, right, for food and board and all that stuff. But then you're receiving a bonus. But the minute you take them out and start playing them, then you lose that bonus.
So I'm going to go and toss actually something that I said in the forums into the twist and get your views and opinions on it. So basically, one of my points was, what about if instead of retiring the character, you could send it off on one really long epic quest that will reward that character and give you the sense of really being 1 out of 1,000 people who reach that level or goal, and as a reward you get these progeny benefits per se to pass on to an ult, like maybe gaining true insight of your class and becoming a master of clerics or a master of summoners or dire lords. Only then can you gain the right to progeny but still use your main character and maybe have a title or special armor that separates you from the rest. What's your take on that?
It's interesting. I mean, Ox says, okay, so if you're doing this, you get a quest to casting spells like Furious Wheelchair and Nasty Gas. How about smacking gums? It's an interesting concept. The progeny is obviously a very touchy subject with a lot of people because they're worried about the time you sink into the character. I mean, I still have my mage on EverQuest. I don't log her in player all the time, but occasionally I'll log in just to look to see it. And people want to be able to do that. I mean, you want to go out there, show off your characters because that's what people do. We're human beings. We like to show off, what we have achieved and we have accomplished. So, yeah, taking that character away permanently would be a bad idea for the game completely. So I think that one's off the table. I believe they believe that's off the table. And Brad even says himself, we can actually, slice and dice and take a main away from somebody. All those hours put in would be a terrible idea. But it's controversial. I mean, it's a neat system. It's a neat idea. There has to be rules and regulations in place for it. If they can come up with an awesome balance, that's great. But, people need to go out there and put their ideas up, and then they can cut through. I mean, there's some awesome ideas out there, granted. But when it comes down to it, it's all about programming it too and getting it to work and keep the balance for the game because of the class interdependency. You don't want to create it where a progeny comes in all of a sudden upsets the complete balance of a 6-man group.
Exactly.
You know, then what you got? Now you got World of Warcraft again, and everybody's hacking and slashing through the game.
Yeah, if you're a 3rd generation warrior, you don't want to be so OP that it, takes away from the,
So, everybody out there in Twitch land, watching from wherever, give your input. Partake on the forum discussion, give your views, help VR. If you've got an idea that might work or anything, post it on the forums. And
I mean, they're always reading the forums.
Yeah.
They're always communicating. Kilson's always replying.
And as Brad already said in his post, this is something that will be after launch and after we've had, the first handful of high-level characters that have got high-level gear and have experienced all the high-level content, etc. So it's going to be quite a while away before they even get into actual details and the thought process behind the Progeny system and how they can tweak it and make it work. So, help them out. Definitely post your thoughts, ideas, even post your opinion. If you're against retirement or if you're all for it, let them know where you stand and what you think, and help them, get the process rolling and how they can make this system work.
Because it works. Majority rules.
Yep. So we're gonna go in. I think we can move on now to the latest screenshots. I think. And
well, there's one more thing I want to throw out there.
Interview.
Yeah, there's one more thing I want to throw out there too, real quick. Brad left it at this too. This last little bit, he said, "It is interesting that this system is brought up as often as it is. I didn't expect it to be. It's an old mud concept that I wanted to bring to MMOs for some time. I'm always thinking about ways to encourage and reward long-term play, about ways to keep people playing MMO even years later. Really, that's all the system is, a way to reward players who have put a lot of time into the game and who might want to experience the game again as an alt, but would be even further incentivized to do so if that alt had some small but noticeable advantages. Small, see, he said small, but noticeable. It's like a rite of passage and recognition and a measure of respect shown to older players. Everything else is just detail, context, and flavor." Thoughts. So throw it out there, folks. Like we said, give them your input. That's
why I said if you do like a child of somebody, you'd be able to keep the same name but do a Roman numeral 2 or Roman numeral 3. That would be the little small icon to show, hey, I use the Progeny system. I'm a veteran player. Here you go.
Yeah.
Or a family cloak with a prop.
Yeah, or a seal. Yeah.
Nails cloak. It. You're done. Thanks. Thanks, Savardi.
So we'll move on to the latest screenshots now.
You do screenshots, or you're going to talk about
screenshots. So we have basically the very first screenshot that's now on the screen is one that they, I think, tweeted out. It says, "Brew, I hope you brought a jacket, because if those ruins don't kill you, the weather might." There's actually a link to this in the forums for you guys to give your thoughts on the screenshots. And the second one, Delindsay, you want to talk about the second one that's coming up?
Yes. Okay. So this first one we're getting ready to show up to you guys is an exclusive screenshot from VR themselves. They sent out some to some of the fan sites that have been covering Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. So this has actually not been published in a magazine, on Twitter, on Facebook, any of that. This one actually is coming to us because it's been modified with a fishing shack. And it's a small fishing shack with a pier extending over a lake. I was going to use this one as part of my CM content and offer a small backstory about a fisherman who enjoys his own company and the peace and quiet of this area just outside the city walls. So this little fishing shack's outside the city walls there, but we don't know which city he's talking about or referring to. I'm going to guess or speculate it might be Thrown Fast. So yeah, this is awesome, man. This was given to us by VR directly to 3 of the different fan sites, Brain Bean and what was the other guy? Terminus Terminal. So yes, there you go, folks. The devs do watch the show, and this is our reward for getting the word out there about the game and talking about it. And here you go.
Yep. And then, Lex, you want to cover the next?
Well, the second one is a mysterious building that we used during an investor demo that was part of a quest. Inside, you had to find a hidden switch in the wall, which was a rock, by using the perception system and investigative skills of your own, which made a key drop from a small hidden crevice in the wall, which is amazing when they give you that kind of example of the perception system helping you with quests.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I mean, it
Yes,
sounds
you
like it's
click
gonna
on
be
it, yeah.
very intuitive.
Yeah, it looks like they click on a rock and it says, "Oh, if you jiggle it harder, something will fall out," and then you shake it again, and a key falls out or something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, definitely awesome. So these were exclusive screenshots to the fan sites, ladies and gentlemen, from VR themselves.
Yep. And I don't know how many people knew or have already seen it or anything, but me and Delinzia, we were actually interviewed by Brainbean. So you want to go and talk a bit about that, Dal? About our interview?
About the interview?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can catch that interview on YouTube and basically listen to yours truly's talk about the Voice of Terminus show and the guild. I thought it was a very interesting interview. It was good. It was exciting, to say the least, and gives you a little bit of backstory about us and how we got into doing this.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So, and then last but least, we have the VoT news. So, Kodiak, do you want to kick it off with what people can expect for Thursday, what we're going to be talking about?
Well, first off, I want to say I did my job fabtabulously by doing the copying and pasting of the links to today's show. So,
yes,
good job, me.
Yes.
No, Thursday show, because I missed it last time we did this, so I was actually really wanting to do another one, which is a general crafting discussion show. So
okay,
that's what we're going to do on Thursday.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
So
crafting.
Yep. It's going to be interesting. You know, you guys have any thoughts, ideas, or anything like that out there in Twitch that you want us to talk about on crafting? Send it our way. You know, connect with us on Twitter, on Discord, or whatever, and post us some of your thoughts, and we'll get to talking about it. And it's open discussion. Anybody can join us.
Yep.
Yeah. Lex, we kind of talked last week while you were away a bit about the future plans of the website, but now that we actually have you right here with us, would you like to speak and actually give people the real insight of what you've been doing, what we have planned, and when we can expect what?
Yeah, or like.
Sure. Well, as most of you know, our website's kind of been in limbo for a little bit. Another member of the VoT, Captus, was kind enough to offer us his design skills to help us revamp and give us a new face. We're starting to move forward with that now. We're going to have a whole new system in place. Basically, we're going to have accounts, signups. You're going to be able to apply. And the way your signup's going to work like this. You're going to sign up to the website, just simple, type in some information, and you go. From there, there's going to be a button on your profile where you can apply to the guild. You don't have to be a part of the website. That way, we can have people from other guilds, you know, come in and still talk to us and still be friendly and be a part of the family. But there are going to be certain aspects of the website that are going to be set aside for strictly members or maybe recruits. We're going to try to add as many administrative tools to help everything run smoothly. So we're going to have a nice way for our officers to review applications, accept or deny them on whatever basis with full notes so that no one's left in the dark. We're also going to have in the works basically a ticket system. When you're in game, we don't want you to have to track down an officer to deal with any kind of issue. You'll just go to the website, submit a ticket, and it'll be handled. You know, it might take a couple of days, but in the end, it's there. It's going to be all done for you with minimal work on everybody's end. So I get to put in hundreds of hours so that you only got to spend 2 minutes on a form instead of trying to track people down.
Cool.
But we plan to do, just a plethora of tools and stuff to this website. I mean, when the game gets closer to being live, we plan on working on possibly an event system, a calendar, all that good stuff. If they give us the ability to work with their in-game information, then that's going to be implemented as well. So there's lots of exciting stuff coming.
Definitely.
Cool.
And I'm hoping to have that push live this week.
That's cool. Yep. So we heard it, Dal. You heard it, Kodiak. Push live this week.
Go, Dire Lord. The summoned elemental will come forth. Okay, we got a question out there in the chat real quick. It says, off topic, but what are your thoughts on the group lead, raid lead, AA, and the fellowship concept from EQ1? Think something like this will be in Pantheon? That's a good question.
I don't know what he's talking about since I never really played EverQuest.
I know what he's talking about. What it is, an EverQuest came out later on where you could put raids together. And it used to be where the raids, you'd get the groups together, you go out raiding and take down the boss, but only one group would get the XP. And with the new raid concept they brought in, you could group everybody up and they'd still get XP from everything that you killed. So everybody would get a portion of the XP finally. It used to be really kind of, lean toward one group. Your AAs and stuff, what had happened was too is the leader would actually get AAs to where they could actually pinpoint targets and select them on the screen so everybody in the raid could see that, okay, this is mob number 1, mob number 2, mob number 3 in order. They'd be highlighted in a different color with a ring around them, and the raid leader earned AAs to get that ability to actually click on the mobs. That's it was a cool concept. I kind of like that because it actually helped raid leaders manage the raid a little bit better than saying, okay, everybody, let's kill this dude. And there might be 4 of them that closely resemble each other and look the same. And you'd have some idiots that would run this way, and you have some idiots that run that way. So it helped the raid leader keep all the idiots running this way. So I think it's a good concept. It's a good idea. And make it easier for raid leaders. So my take on it, it'd be cool.
I got a question then. Do you think it should be something that is earned, or should it be an option because they did it for EverQuest 2, where you could actually color code your NPCs and give them numbers and stuff, and you could even color code your MTs or your leaders in the group from the get-go. So should it
back then, because it was like new technology and all that stuff, like people wanted to work for that feature. But in today's games, it's given to us. So that's something that's more of a behind the scenes feature that should just be implemented anyways, because that's one of, like, with the new technology, it should just be, given to us. I don't think that it should be like, oh, you have to earn it, or you can't be a raid master, or you can't run a raid,
I like the idea. I think that you obviously certain things like the tagging or the icons or color coding of the system needs to be in there anyway, because everybody needs it to make things run smoothly. But I would like to see stuff like, maybe a raid leader gets some sort of AA system where your group suffers less detrimental effects from deaths, or maybe you get a little bit bonus gold, or you could even do something. I'm not saying to put this because this would be pretty iffy in my book, but say, like, you put a whole ton of AAs into it and you get like a 5% chance to get 1 extra drop from a boss, So that makes the raid leader a super desirable person, and you really want to work with him in and out of raid so that he gets all these things.
Yeah, but I'd rather have it be like when they did the where you get the leadership bonuses for grouping with other people, where extra health, extra mana regen, health regen, right? And then you can have 4 of those people, or 5, how big the raid is, I don't know. But, each one of those people can use their fellowship abilities to help boost the raid. It's not just one person. You got a team of people.
Thanks for answering that, Dan. I was about to actually bring it up in our discussion here.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, I could see raid leaders earning those tools. The only reason why is because you don't want every Tom, Dick, and Harry to try to be a raid leader out there wandering around with those tools. Yeah. It can get crazy. And you imagine everybody in the group who could sit there and start marking mobs. That'd be a pain in the butt, to be honest. It would get really irritating that I have to yell at somebody.
I marked him.
Well, no, of course the leader would be the only one that can mark mobs, whoever the group leader is, or the guild leader.
So so that would be kind of a pain in the butt.
Dal, any news on the store? Anything going on there?
Anything exciting in the store? Yes, we had 3 more orders this week, so I believe we have somebody who has to drink some very potent lemon juice. Oh no. Who elected to do that himself? Lex?
Oh, so here we go. We've actually missed that for a while, haven't we? I think he's been cutting out on us, dude.
His wife let him do it this week.
Asus 5, I would tell you that right now, September 12th is the deadline to get into alpha access. Yeah. So if I were you, I'd buy those pledge packages right now that get you into alpha access, folks, because come September 12th, bam, they're closing it. You can still buy that pledge, but it will no longer get you into alpha access. So if you have the money, spend it now.
Yep. Alright, so we've had our wonderful 3 shots there.
Is that good? Did he take all 3?
Yeah, I think he took all 3.
How peachy.
I saw his
his eyes are watering.
Raise at least twice. So.
Is he bleeding from his eyes?
Alright, so I think we have a wrap for today.
A wrap?
A wrap. So I think we've covered everything. Anything else you guys have you want to talk about, want to tell, want to get off your chest?
So the only thing I can say at the website is that when I do push it live, I'm going to work on the issues as they arise. So please be patient with me.
So if you do end up getting issues on the website and you're in our Discord or you're
send
on Twitter,
10,000 emails to Lexor.
Yeah, send them all to
Tag
Lex.
me in the message so that I
wishing him to die.
Make sure I can.
Yep.
So the story is, ladies and gentlemen, we were traveling through Black Dagger Keep, and the party was just going through quietly. And as we were walking through, we rounded a bend. And the sad thing is, as soon as Lexor came around the corner, he stepped on a cobblestone that set off an arrow trap, and it shot an arrow through his throat, and he died. Yes, it was terrible.
Something tells me I would have grabbed Valencia as a human shield first.
The end.
So there's a short story for you guys. Yeah, so we will be back. We will be back on Thursday. As you already know, Codex already revealed it. We will be talking about crafting.
Oh yeah,
crafting.
Yep, because he missed the last one and he really wants to, get into it.
I got some good ideas.
He's got some ideas. So join us Thursday for show number 30, I think it is. Down.
Is it 30?
Yeah, show 30 already.
30. We've been doing 30 shows.
And then next week we'll be over at Dow's, and Dow will be hosting Tavern Talk and show 31.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Technical glitch Dow.
We all have technical difficulties every time. We can't be the VoT without our technical difficulties.
That's right. I mean, come on.
Technical difficulties.
Hey, they pulled me out of retirement to do this Twitch streaming stuff, guys. So I lost some of my skills.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, he maxed out. He actually went for the Progeny.
Yep.
And now he's been brought back.
A little old and fidgety when it comes to that Twitch streaming stuff.
Dust off the cobwebs.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, with that, guys, thanks for joining us. And we hope to have a lot more news for you next week when Dow covers Tavern Talk. It was a bit short from VR this week, but we tried our best to get it all out there for you. And
yeah, true. Yeah. True. I'm a caster.
If anybody's playing Age of Conan, Dow.
Oh, yes, Age of Conan.
You can actually join in with us and get to know
us. Yes, join in Age of Conan with us on the Crom server, not the PvP server, but the PvE server. So if you want to hang out with the Voices Terminus folks, we're hanging out there playing Conan. It'll give you some cool ideas of what can happen in a game from a long time ago. They have some really good combat animations. Yeah, you should check that stuff out. Running animations, really cool. But also the disclaimer. Oh, shoot, we forgot the disclaimer.
We don't need a disclaimer. It's Tavern Talk.
Oh, that's right. This is Tavern Talk. There's no disclaimer, Ox. How dare you confuse the old man behind the Twitch stream? So, yeah. No disclaimer here.
So with that, guys, thanks for joining us, and we will see you on Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. Thanks, guys, gals, folks out there. Don't forget, September 12th.
Yeah.
Alpha Access goes bye-bye. So remember, get it while it's hot.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
All
Bye-bye.
right,
Bye
see you
bye.
later.
www.votstore.com.
Safe travels.